Okay, you guys, we'll now continue with the adjustments at bottom of page 200. And decided I would put in these letters to reference the adjusting information on bottom of page 200. C reads depreciation of equipment during the year is $83.50. Okay, that's going to be a debit to depreciation expense equipment. And that kind of looks weird compared to the others when we put it in, but we'll go with it. I've also noticed on this template, to get your score to come to 100, we're going to have to go through and add in some zeros. You can do that if you want at home. I'm going to do it on mine, but you wouldn't have to. You probably remember that from some of the earlier templates. It's just kind of a flaw with them. But on this third adjusting entry, we're going to debit depreciation expense equipment and credit to increase its balance, and credit the contra asset account accumulated depreciation equipment to increase its balance. Okay, now let's go to D. It's a similar entry. Depreciation of trucks during the year, $6,200. It's a debit on D. For $6,200 to depreciation expense trucks, and it's a credit on D to accumulated depreciation trucks to increase its balance, $6,200 as well. Okay, so that debit to depreciation expense trucks, it increases the depreciation expense trucks account because it's an expense account. They increase on the debit side. Then the credit to accumulated depreciation trucks increases that account balance because it's a contra asset account, and they increase on the credit side. Okay, let's keep going. E, wages accrued but not paid at March 31st are $600. Okay, on E, that's going to be a debit to wages expense. And that gave us a funny sign too. I believe I'll take the brackets off of these. Maybe there'll be more. Okay, so we're going to debit wages expense for $600 to increase its balance. Those are wages earned in the month of March. They won't get paid until sometime in April. So that's going to create a liability for us as well, wages payable, and that's going to be E. We'll increase the liability with the credit for $600. Okay, now we want to total both columns. So it's going to be equal to $600 plus $22,005 plus $83.50 plus $6,200 plus $1,800, $39,450. And this column should total to the same amount. Yeah, let's try. I tried something different there and it didn't work. I should be able to hit the sum function, but it won't let me on this template. So let's try that again. We're adding these all together. You could also do it with a calculator and just punch the number in. Those two should match, of course, because every time we enter a number in the debit column, we're entering the same number in the credit column. Okay. The next step in completing this worksheet, you guys, is going to be bringing our unadjusted trial balance plus or minus any adjustments over to the adjusted trial balance columns. So we'll start with cash. It had a debit balance for $12,000 with no adjustment. So that makes the balance on the adjusted trial balance $12,000. Okay, then supplies had a debit balance for $30,000. A credit entry for $22,500 leaves us with a debit balance of $7,500. Now, here's one way you can check that. Of course, we didn't have a red dot pop up, so you know that's you know it's correct. But remember, a debit and a credit we subtract, right? So when we subtract, we're left with a debit because the 30,000 is larger than the 22,500. We're left with a debit balance of 7,500. And if you go back to the adjusting information A at the bottom of page 200, it says supplies on hand at March 31st are 7,500. And notice that matches our new balance in the supplies account. It's now equal to what we counted in our inventory account. Well, let's go to the next one. Prepaid insurance, we've got a debit for $3,600, a credit for $1,800. So we'll subtract, and that makes our new balance a debit of $1,800. With equipment, we've got a debit balance for $110,000, no adjustment. So our debit balance remains $110,000. Okay, accumulated depreciation equipment. We got a credit balance for $25,000, a credit entry for $83.50. That's going to leave us with a credit balance of $33,350. Our trucks account, we have a debit balance for $60,000, no adjustment, so that leaves us with a debit balance of $60,000. Accumulated depreciation trucks, we've got a credit balance on the unadjusted trial balance for $15,000. A credit entry for $6,200. Two credits, we'll add, and that gives us a credit balance of $21,200. We're just bringing them over, you guys, from the unadjusted trial balance plus or minus any adjustments to the adjusted trial balance columns. Okay, let's continue. Capital stock, credit balance for $26,000 with no adjustment. It comes over as a credit, $26,000. Retained earnings, credit balance for $70,000, no adjustment. Comes over as a credit, $70,000. Dividends, we have a debit balance for $15,000, no adjustment. So it comes over to the adjusted trial balance as a debit, $15,000. Once you get your adjustments filled in, you guys, you're mainly just moving numbers over, right? And once we get this worksheet filled out, it'll really make the remainder of the problem fairly simple. Okay, service revenue, we had a credit balance for $160,000. No adjustment, so that leaves us with a credit balance of $160,000. All right, on wages expense, we had a debit balance for $45,000, a debit entry for $600. Makes our new debit balance $45,600 when we add those two together. Supplies expense had no beginning balance. A debit adjustment for $22,500 makes the new debit balance $22,500. Rent expense, a debit balance on the unadjusted trial balance, no adjustment, so that remains the same at $10,600. Truck expense, a debit balance of $9,000 on the unadjusted trial balance, no adjustment, so it comes over as $9,000. Depreciation expense equipment, no beginning balance, debit adjustment for $83.50. Comes over as a debit of $83.50. Depreciation expense on trucks. Debit balance, no adjustment. No beginning balance. Debit adjustment, $6,200. Makes our balance $6,200. Sorry, I kind of screwed that one up. That was depreciation expense trucks, had no beginning balance. A debit adjustment for $6,200 makes our new debit balance $6,200. Okay, same situation with insurance expense, no beginning balance. Debit adjustment for $1,800 makes our debit balance $1,800. And then miscellaneous expense, a debit balance on the unadjusted trial balance for $4,800. No adjustment, That makes our debit balance $4,800. Okay, now we'll total our adjusted trial balance columns. Here's where we really wish we could use the sum function, but we can't. So we're going to say equals, we're just going to add these together, 12,000. See if this will work. I'm going to try it. No. Yeah, so the best way I know is to punch them in the calculator and then put in the total. Or you can go like this. Equals. Then highlight this one. Hit plus. Then this one. Plus. Plus. You have to hit plus between each one you highlight. Your Excel skills might be better than mine. But when it won't let me use the sum function, this is the best way I can figure out to do it. Either way, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you add this column up. $315,150. Now let's hope our credit column totals to the same amount, and it should. 160,000 plus the 70 plus the 26,000 plus the 21,200 plus the 33,350. A lot fewer numbers in that column. Oh, we messed it somewhere. Okay, let's find our mistake. We're short. Sorry, you guys. Some of you probably caught this as I was going through. We have to bring them all over. So let's go back and check. We brought over cash. We brought over supplies. We brought over prepaid insurance. We brought over equipment. We brought over accumulated depreciation. It's going to be something in the credit column because we know this one's correct and this one's short. So let's go to accumulated depreciation trucks. We brought it over. Aha, accounts payable. We had a beginning credit balance on the unadjusted trial balance for $4,000, and we did not bring that over, or I did not bring that over. Sorry for that mistake. But you see how to go back and correct it, right? If these are not equal, you got to look back through and see where your mistake is. We know this one's correct because it doesn't have the red dot. So we're going to go back and fix this one. Let's see. Any other credits? Wages payable. $600 in the no beginning balance, a $600 credit adjustment. So it has to come over as $600. And I believe that should fix it. Let's try adding them up again. You guys, you have to bring them all over. Everything on the unadjusted trial balance comes over to the adjusted trial balance, but you have to add in or subtract for the adjustments. Okay, let's try this one again. 160 plus 70,000 plus 26,000 plus the 6 plus the 4 plus the 21,200 plus the 33,350. Aha, 13,150. Sorry for those. I just failed to bring over accounts payable and wages payable. Probably some of you noticed it as we were going along. You guys will finish out this worksheet and we'll finish out this worksheet and start the rest of the problem in the next video. Thanks.